Jolene Mizzone, when I was reached out to speak to you, there was no other person I'd rather talk to. I feel like I don't get to talk to you enough. We kind of like two ships passing a night when we can meet at a fight, but I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you, and I'm excited to talk to you about your new role. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. So far, so good. Thank God.
When I was reflecting on you and reading through your accolades, the thing that I thought most about you, what makes me enjoy you so much, is you're such an honest person, and it's so hard to connect with honest people in any industry, let alone boxing. So I'm going to start with that. Are there any honest people left in boxing? Because that's an attribute about you that I've always loved and I've always appreciated.
Honest people,
As
a
honest
few.
as you can be in business.
I haven't come across most of them. So I'd say there's a few. But, I guess that's what, like, when, I'm so honest. So if a fighter calls me and says, sign me, and I'm not interested, I'm going to tell him I'm not interested. Now on the manager's side, call a promoter. I have a fighter who's really good. Blah, blah, blah. Here's his resume, email. Oh, okay. No, we're definitely interested. We're interested. We just don't have the dates. We don't have this. And it's just like, just tell me to go fuck off. Like, just be honest. That's the frustrating part that I'm seeing in this business nowadays. And I guess it's because who I am, to a fault, sometimes I'm too honest.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was working for main events and I was making deals as a matchmaker, when you negotiate, the funny thing in boxing is everybody would say, like, let's say you had a budget of 50,000, try to make a fight, and 50,000 to spend on the opponent. They go in and say, I could pay you 30. I'm not saying you go in with 50 because there's other expense, but it's like, let's come close to the 50 at least. Even if you started off with 40 and then expect them to ask 45 or 50, that's how I negotiate. So there's not many honest people in this business, to answer the question.
I know it's really tough out there, but looking at you now and your new role, for those who are familiar with you from matchmaker and now working, like you said, on the management side, what do you think is the biggest difference between Jolene, the matchmaker, and Jolene, the management side person now? Or is there a difference?
There's not much of a difference. There's less stress because now think about it. When I'm going to a show, I have one, two, maybe three fighters on a show if I'm lucky. When I was doing the matchmaking, it could have been 20 fighters on the show. So you have 20 people who aren't going to make weight, possibly. You have 20 people, one who's going to pull out. So on that aspect of the matchmaking, and you still worry about that with your one guy is the opponent, but that's one guy opposed to 20. So it's similar in a sense, but I'd have to say it's less stressful.
In your role now, do you find that you have to take your matchmaker hat off? Does it creep into the decision making? Have you had to segment that out of how you interact with the fighters now?
No, I still have the matchmaking hat on. Always will, always have. I have my opinions on every match. When we're matching, or when I'm matching, my fighters that we have, their fighters first, I won't agree to a fighter unless I can see tape on it. I don't care if he's 0-50.
Mm-hmm.
That's just always been, there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, this is a great fight. They never even seen the one guy fight. Like, people don't really do their homework. You would watch the opponent and see what he has and if it matches. So that hasn't went out the window. I still do that to this day. I mean, even something as higher caliber, and I don't have the means, I'm not his trainer, but like with Brian Norman and Devin Haney, I think every day I've watched the Devin Haney fight.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go in there and fight for him, but it's in my blood. So it's like, I like to look at and see what I see and, oh, this, oh, that, like, I just like to study fights and fighters inside and outside the ring. So that hasn't gone away now.
Before we dive into the San Antonio Summer Showdown, with that matchmaker hat on, Otto Wallin is a client of Fighters First. I must ask you, did you talk to him before the Tyson Fury fight? Because he really was showing out. That was a great fight for him. And what happened on the aftermath?
I had nothing to do with him for the Tyson Fury fight. He was with Dominique Francis. I started working with him when he fought Gassiev in Turkey. That was our first fight. So I've only been with Otto. I've only had 4 fights with him. So he came on, a little later with the company starting, but not that much later. But so I wasn't with him with Tyson Fury.
I feel like, there's so many people who know you're quite known in our boxing community, but with the issue, like you just mentioned, Brian Norman, I feel like you were thrust into a whole nother spotlight when they had their little tete-a-tete that day. A little dance routine there in the hotel lobby or wherever they were. So tell people about Fighters First and the role that the company has in boxing, what you do for your fighters, just so that it's very clear, because people don't read anymore. And right. I'd rather you say.
Fighters First, the owner of the company is David Basham. He read Adrian Clark's book, Protect Yourself at All Times. And, to make a long story short, he had met with Adrian. He said, he wanted to start a company managing fighters where we protect the fighters. So that's where Fighters First comes in key. And Adrian said to him, basically, I'm not going to do it unless I can bring on Jolene Mizzone. And that's when they recruited me on. And I came on and I said, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to be a manager. Holy shit. But, basically, I like to educate fighters instead of just say, do this, do that. This is fine. I like to have a conversation with them and talk to them about deals. And, I think you should take this deal. And if they don't want to take the deal, you don't want to look back 2 fights down the line and say, so with a lot of our fighters, it's a lot of conversation and talking about the business, it's simple conversation. Like I tell them stories. Oh, when I worked with Arturo Gatti, XYZ happened. These fighters need to be educated outside of the ring on the business, and also just the other fighters from back in the day and how things worked and, what happened and what didn't happen. And, a lot of these fighters back when that I worked with had a totally different mentality than fighters of today. So all we could do, and Adrian's better at that than me, where he, gives them examples, and he's very good. He's a very, very good teacher when it comes to the business side. Because look, ultimately my goal would be, I would love, and it's not going to happen with all of them, when all of our fighters' careers are done and over, I would love for them to be managers and take our places. Mm-hmm. That's my goal, for them to have something after boxing. It's a sport that they love. You don't, at some point, every fighter has to hang them up. You don't have to keep getting punched in the face. If you know the business side, get into this because you can enjoy but not get punched in the face. So that would be one of my goals, is for a lot of our fighters to make the turn and be, manager or promoters.
Let me sing your praises a bit. So for folks who don't know, they know you as a matchmaker, worked your way from young as a receptionist from main events all the way to now, ran through this resume: Arturo Gatti, Lennox Lewis, Kovalev, Adamek, Zab Judah, Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker. Shout out to you. You hooked us up with a great interview with him back in the day. Terrific interview. Fernando Vargas, Curtis Stevens, Sullivan Barrera. Wealth of knowledge, learned so many things over the course of your career in the matchmaker side. Why was this the right yes for you, for Fighters First? Because everyone always, I'm sure you get reached out many, many times for many, many things. So why was this the right yes?
Because I think between myself, Adrian, and David, we all had the same mindset, was to put fighters first. You know, anybody could be a manager. I mean, all you have to do is fill out a form, boom. As long as you know your address and your date of birth, you're a fucking manager. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of people do. But, you know, what we bring, I bring, you know, Adrian brings the knowledge of him writing past manager, him doing at higher level or lower level clientele. And I bring in where I know the promoting side of it. And a promoter really, it's going to be hard to screw me over because I know how it works. But at the same time, I respect how it works. Because if I'm with a promoter and, oh, you know, we don't have any cards, or we got to put one of your fighters on a club show and you can get this much money, and no problem. It's about so I get that aspect where some other managers would be like, oh, let me prove to my fighter how good I am and try to get more money. And that's when you kill a fight. You know, you got to kind of work together, but still be on your toes. So it just was kind of, it was the right time because I felt like I could do more in the business with fighters personally.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that reputable managers are facing now? There's lots of armchair managers who think they know they can read a contract. Everybody knows everything, but never worked a day in their life in the industry. So what do you think is, from a real perspective, the biggest challenger specifically for managers?
I think it's understanding boxers of today. They're very different, but they're the same as the old school boxers. And, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, it was the same in the past too, that, you know, you have to recognize the talent. And it's not only, you have to recognize the talent and the it factor of a fighter. So, and there's not as many as there used to be. You know, we could all name, what year was it? 96 Olympic team, right? That was with Mayweather, Fernando Vargas, David Reed. Like, we're all rattling that all off. I mean, I knew that even without being so deep in. You know, now you really got to be sure to get the right talent because there's not as much out there. So you don't want to that's one thing with us. I will never oversaturate our roster because I don't want to be the Walmart of management. I'd rather be the Neiman Marcus.
Say that.
You know?
I like that, Jolene. I like that.
Yeah.
Let me write that down. I like that. We might need that. But, you know, it's the old adage. Yeah. You look at like luxury cars and things like that. You don't see them advertised on TV every 5 minutes. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, they don't have to advertise because if you want that Beamer, you're going to go get that Beamer.
So tell me about this card that's happening in San Antonio. The San Antonio Summer Showdown is the second fight that you're doing with Desi Martinez. After doing one fight with Desi and now round two, obviously the relationship worked great. So what is the approach going into the second edition, and what are your hopes for your card? And tell us about the fighters on the card.
Well, you know, the hope, we worked with Desi Martinez Promotions last time in San Antonio, and you know, it kind of works out. He wants to do the promoting, so we lead him and help him. I could help him with certain things with promoting because I've done it. And, you know, it works well because he put on talent. And then we have our fights that might be in a lull that need a fight. So it works hand in hand. So that's where we put three of our fighters, Justin Figueroa, Justin Paldo, and Joseph Almajdi on the card. And we gave a little mix. That's three. And then there's 7 guys that are from San Antonio around the area. So you got all your ticket sellers, and they'll see, you know, Justin Figueroa his first main event for the junior NABF title will be his first test. And he, he's a ticket seller in Atlantic City, but you have to pull him away from there sometimes because it's stressful for him. And what happens when you don't see your favorite person in concert because you couldn't afford a ticket or whatever, and then they come back into your area and you're like, oh my God, I want to go see them now. Let me go see them. So that's what we did with him. Justin Poldo is right on the verge of fighting one of the next, one of the top guys at 135. So he needed a fight. So we worked with Pro Box to give him a fight. So we're putting him on this card. And then our 4-rounder Joseph, he's from Fort Worth area. He was highly recommended to us from Derek James through the amateurs. And he's going to be fighting in a fight for 4 rounds, which will be the first time I see him, but a little bit of everything. And then have great local guys on the card from San Antonio. So you got a little bit mix of everything. You got, Justin Poldo from Florida, Joseph Alice, Justin Figueroa from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and then all San Antonio guys. So it's a real true, what I feel, blue, like, club show, but on a much higher level.
I'm very interested in what you just said about it being stressful for a fighter to fight at home. We've seen there's some fighters who thrive when they fight at home, and there's some that just kind of crap the bed. How do you guide the fighter before the fight, and win or lose, how do you advise the fighter after the fight when they go through the trials of fighting at home?
Well, see, the good thing with Justin Figueroa is we had him since his pro debut, right? And he always, everybody says I could sell tickets. Well, he sells a shit ton of tickets. So that's kind of been his home. So every fight I'm able to see stupid things that he does or the stresses that he does. Like his one fight, I think it was like his 7th fight or whatever. I mean, people are going nuts for him there. So he's coming out of the tunnel, walking to the fight, and like some little kid, like people are pounding him, and he's pounding hands, and he's doing this, and he's like hitting people's gloves, and I'm sitting, he's happy as could be coming out to the fight. And I'm sitting there thinking about this motherfucker. Like, you can't be doing this shit, but this is learning. So after the fight, he won in spectacular fashion. I said, you did great. It's great. I said, but let me tell you something. You ever fucking come out and start banging hands and holding kids up and stuff when you're getting ready to joke? But I was just really excited. I said, I understand that. But, like, there's so many haters in this world, and people might think I'm crazy, but, like, you could go to give somebody a pound and they try to break your wrist. Like, people are crazy,
Iron.
He's like, I think you're taking a little too far. I said, listen, my job is to protect you. So you don't have to listen to me. You're grown. You could come out your next time and fist pump and do all this, but I can bet you one thing. You're going to remember this conversation. So you're going to think about it. It's like, no, you're right. So like things like that, like, and then him having to sell tickets, it's a lot on him, but he does at home. He stresses in a way with the tickets, not with the fight. I think his level goes up with the fight because he's scared to death of being embarrassed in front of his people. One thing, and everybody knows this, I think a lot, of course, hard work helps. Floyd Mayweather was scared to death to lose, as every fighter should be. And it makes him that much stronger. And I think in Justin, he's like, he fought in his hometown and he got knocked down. He almost, like, you need that though. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's like he gets knocked down in front of his home crowd. He got up and he stopped the guy the next round. He just, he was off balance, whatever. He got clipped. So after the fight, I said, that's the best thing that happened to you. Because now you could check that off your list. It's not about when you get knocked down, it's about what you do when you get up.
Absolutely.
So he's learned a lot on the job with him, so which is great. And I just try to, give them some of my wisdom about, just certain things to do or certain things not to do.
With working with these young fighters, and you think of the past and the sensibility of the champions that you worked with before, I hear a lot of young fighters say that, oh, the old heads are jealous. They don't want to get out of the way. No one wants to reach back, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that there is the same divide between generations? Or your fighters that are the fighters that you currently work with, do they like to harken back and talk about the good old days? Or is there a divide as much as people make it out to be?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the person. I think it's the person, how they were raised. I think look, I was raised by my parents with the oldies, like the Temptations. That's way beyond my age. You know what I'm saying? But I really think it's how you're raised, of who you are as a person. Like, I have fighters that are old heads that should not be 24 years old. You would think they were 54 years old. And I just think it's how you're raised, and it's how you use social media. I think that has a lot to do with it. We all have social media. You will not see me with my head in fucking social media. It's not my thing. But you have some of these guys or girls that literally are in it 24/7, and anything that's said or the comments and this and that, that's not good. That's, I think that hurts a lot of them because they all read into it.
What do you think is the best use of social media for these fighters? Everyone thinks that they can just post a few of them, hitting the pads, and then that's it. Oh my God, millions of people are going to want to see me fight. How would you want your fighters to best use their socials, or do you even want them to have it at all?
Yeah, they should all have social media, because that's the world we live in, and you're going to have to deal with it one way or another. But see, I'm a believer in less is more. But if it's something like, for instance, if we hire a videographer and it's Brian Norman week and they're doing the videos and he's popping it on, yeah, go nuts with that. You know what? You're not actually doing much. But I think less is more with social media. So, everybody's different. Justin Figueroa, a young guy from Atlantic City, he loves social media, but I don't think he reads too much into it. He just enjoys making content, But I think they should all have it. But we have another fighter like Justin Paldo. He puts, the only thing you will really see on there is boxing stuff. And then every now and then he'll put something with his kids. See, I think that's the way to do it, because now it's I'm looking at Justin Paldo's stuff, and this is me as a fan, and oh my God, that's his son. Oh my God, he looks just like, now you see a different part of him. So I don't think anybody should put up too much personal stuff, but just little tidbits to show I'm a human, not just a boxer.
Then so let's circle back then to Brian Norman and his buddy Devin Haney, close personal friend of his, apparently. What in the hell? So I open my phone, it's the first thing I see. You just minding your Jolene business and Brian minding his Brian business. What the hell happened? What happened? I know it was a lot of jaw jacking back and forth, but what happened?
They just finished, what's it called? The face off with Chris Mannix, where they sit at the table. They were in the room, just finished it. Now I'm biased. I think Brian Norman got the best of Devin in there, but that's me being biased. Whatever. I think after that, they started, so what the Haneys keep on liking to say, oh, thank us, you only got this fight because of us. You only got this fight because of us. So Brian and his father was like, we're the ones with the titles. That's why you want to fight me. I have the title. And, and Brian went, and he didn't shove him or push him, just put his hand, little boy him a little bit. And then Devin pushed it. And then it was just total mayhem. I'm like, and you heard me in the video, because I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You guys are getting big meetings. Are you out of your fuck? That's all I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
why I'm yelling what I'm yelling with this stupid fucking security guard. Like, and I look at one split second, I look and I see the two Haneys just standing there, like, yeah. I was like, ain't this a bitch? And the first thing I thought to myself was, oh no, they ain't gonna fuck up our money. They ain't gonna fuck up our money. So that's when I seen, I didn't, because everything, when stuff like that happens, you kind of turn, like everything turns black. Like you were just like in shock. And I see security guard where I thought he had Brian's arm, but Brian had his arm and was slamming him to the floor at the time. But I seen their two arms intertwined. So I just start throwing punches on the security's arm, like trying to say, like, get off of him. What is wrong with you guys? It didn't have to go this far. Security, you want to separate them so they don't touch. I understand that, but taking the shirt and put it over his head, like, we didn't have 9mm on us, for the love of God. Like, come on. And there literally was a group of them, and there was 4 of us, me, Adrian, Brian, and his father. That is it.
So this brings up an interesting point, particularly because it's the Haneys, and we know they are quite litigious, we'll say. Would there be a space where, let's just say Brian got hurt, or his arm got hurt, or something with this security guard putting his hands on him, which was just ridiculous. And I'm surprised his team didn't check him for that, for the very same reason of messing up the money. Could there be a space? Would that be a possibility of flipping the script? And if Brian got hurt, suing them for this man putting his hands on a fighter who has nothing to do with the fight?
If there was money damages, absolutely, possibly. I would think. I don't think look, thank God. And after everything was said and done, we all talked it out. And I, still had words that wasn't on camera, I don't think.
As you should.
With the security guard just saying, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then, of course, me being Italian, I had my finger in his face, and he's like, don't put your finger on my face. Now he's trying to start with me directly. So now Brian Norman Jr. is standing there, and he's like, wait a minute. Like, you ain't going to fucking talk to her. Like, and I was just like, and then Bill, everybody calmed down. I said, listen, Adrian was in the middle. I said, why would anyone fuck up the money? What are you doing? What are you doing? And it was just like, I've been in situations like plenty of times at a weigh-in where there's, and then it's like, this just went so far, and it always comes back to the same thing. I mean, it wasn't as big when we did the Mike Tyson Lennox Lewis press conference. Remember, Mike bit Lennox's leg. It happened because all of the security guards, and all the entourage, so to say, because that's what these weren't real security guards. In my opinion, they were a part of the entourage. You can call yourself security. I've been around plenty of security guys. They did not act like security guys. They act like his friend.
So since everything is negotiated in boxing, is there a way to negotiate in the making of a fight that whenever we have to do these appearances, it will be fighter, trainer, manager only? Because a lot, like you said, a lot of these fights and things have been derailed by people other than the fighters themselves just doing stupid stuff in the mix because they're just so happy to be in a room. Can that ultimately be a point of negotiation in the making of a fight, just to keep everything copacetic in the buildup?
Oh, absolutely. When Brian beats Devin, and then Brian goes on to beat this one, and Brian, God willing, one day is at the top of the world, we will have that in all our contracts, because now you got to be the man, like a Terrence Crawford. You got to be Terrence. You know what I'm saying? When you're putting fights that, you know what, you're only allowed to have that, because they're going to want to fight you. They're going to want that bad. Mm-hmm. So you got to be that man. We're little old people that we can't come in and ask for this or that because we're giving them a way out of the fight in this situation. But no, that's a great idea.
See, I might have to come over there and work at Fighters first. Just
Look at you. Look at
just holler at me sometime. I'll give y'all to put this in the contract,
Right.
Things that we. So when you look at now in this chapter of your career, how would you describe this chapter in your boxing lineage, and when it's all said and done, what do you think? What do you ultimately want to be known for? How do you want people to remember you?
I want people to remember me of a person who didn't take shit, who was fair with everybody she came in encounters with, and fought for a fighter. I mean, I did it from when I was with Main Events, even when I was just doing like fighter relations, like, I've done it. And you know what? Back up to give you a funny story real quick. The whole thing that happened with the Haneys, we actually talked it into existence. Me, Brian, his father, and Adrian were out to lunch in New York right before we went to this interview. And we're just talking personal and talking about this and that, other fighters. We're just bullshit. So somehow it came up, and I said, yeah, I punched a guy before I got hit by a guy. And they're like, what? And I was like, oh, we were at a fight. It was a Zab Judah fight. And I was with one of my friends, and the guy called us a fucking bitch. And me being me, I threw a shot at him, and he hit me back. And they were like, he hit you back? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I was good, though. It didn't hurt or whatever. I said, Ronnie Shields was between us, breaking it up. I said, and then my boys from Brooklyn took him in the back room and made sure that never happened again. Anyway, so we have this conversation, and they're like, oh, so you threw hands? And I was like, yeah. We walked to this interview, and this happened. Like, we literally, so when everything's all said and done, and I come out of the room in the hotel, I come out, and who's the first person I see? Ronnie Shields. I'm like, oh my God, I just threw punches again. He's like, what's wrong with you, Mizzone? I'm like, I'm 50 years old. I can stop doing this. That's just a little tidbit. Yeah.
Oh my God. Why we're the same age?
50.
When's your birthday?
December.
Oh, I'm older than you. My birthday's in May.
So okay. You just turned 50.
Oh, okay. So you turning 51. We're still the same age. Still the same.
Yeah. Hey, a few months.
Exactly. Team us. Jolene, I am so proud of you. I am so excited for this chapter because, like I said, you're like a breath of fresh air. Just the honesty is so absent just from the industry because everybody just wants to make a quick buck. There's so many people just lacking real integrity. They're lying to these kids. They're taking a little bit of money that they have. And there really needs to be people out there advocating for these kids, especially now. I feel like boxing is not a resurgence. I just feel like it's getting it's getting active again. Despite, if people are like, oh, there's no network TV. This has always been a thing with boxing. This is nothing new. I read this book called Blood Brothers. It's about Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X and their history. And Muhammad Ali was going through the same thing when he was Cassius Clay, and they didn't want boxing on TV. It was too violent. This is not a new. So what are your hopes for this latest version of what boxing has going on?
I hope that the promoters don't give up and really go in and promote. And I just hope the promoters don't give up. That's my biggest concern. And I really hope, my hope would be the big promoters, the Top Rank, Eddie Hearns, and Top Rank's done this a little bit. They kind of help the little local promoters, like the Desi Martinez promotions, work with those guys because you're not going to be here always. So at some point, it's like a fighter. The torch has to be passed. Mm-hmm. My dream, if I had all the TV dates in the world and I can control the whole industry, would be to educate the club show promoters and let them get on that stage at some point. And they may succeed or they may fail. That's up to them. But let's put them on that stage for a minute. Let's bring those little guys in and teach and make the business thrive, because every big guy was on a club show card before. So why are we forgetting about those guys?
Absolutely.
You know, why aren't we supporting them? And when I say support them, it's like, all right, we're Matchroom Boxing and we're doing a show in Texas. I'm just using it as example at Techport, which is a great arena. Let's bring Desi Martinez. He could put on some local guys. That would be great. It would make sense. Mm-hmm. And then you have Matchroom and Desi Martinez Promotions. And, you know, Desi Martinez is this little promoter, but he gets some of his kudos. And you just kind of do that. People don't do that anymore.
Well, you know, everybody swears they woke up and they were just, you know, Al Heyman or something. You know, yeah. It just nobody, you know, woke up and was broke or was driving around with in their car handing out fight flyers with their fighter. Everybody was just a billionaire and fighting on Netflix or whatever.
Exactly.
And skipping the steps.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
Well,
and then you also have the people that say, I've been in the business for 30 years and I know this business. And I say to them, how many contracts have you reviewed? About contract. Get the hell out of my face.
What they were trying to say is they've been going to fights for 30
for 30 years. Yeah,
they've been going to the fight for 30 years, but working the fight is a whole nother ball game. Yeah. So once again, for folks who are watching, because we're going to drop it this week, the San Antonio Summer Showdown, because we got folks in Texas. I know we got some folks down in San Antonio for sure. This is a great opportunity to see some terrific up-and-coming talent. Like, hey, these kids, if you love the sport, how can you not go to a club show? Somebody is going to have to keep carrying the sport forward. And if we have no club show, we have no future in the sport, because all these guys who are making all this money right now, they damn near got one foot on a banana peel about to retire. You know?
Yeah.
Canelo, Crawford, who are some of the guys that are still at the top of hell? And in the whole scheme of things, Devin damn near almost old at this point, because he's been for a long time. And so the body can only take so much for so long. So my hopes is everybody in Texas, and Texas has great fight fans. They really turn.
Yeah, they do.
So I think it's going to be very exciting for you guys. Well, I thank you, Jolene Mizzone. It is always a pleasure. You have an open. I feel like you should just be like the third co-host with us and do some shows sometime and educate these people, because folks just swear they know everything about matchmaking, contracts, promotions, while they sit in their chair, you know, eating a bag of chips. But, I wouldn't have signed that contract. And you know,
you could bring me in anytime you want, even if it's in the middle of an interview. If you want me to educate anybody, I got no problem with that.
I know that's right. We got footage too. Well, I thank you, Jolene. I'm very excited to see your. Oh, can we watch? If we're not in San Antonio, are you guys streaming the card? Where can we watch it?
I'm finding that. We're working on that, but I think you can get information on Desi Martinez Promotions webpage.
Okay.
Just Google Desi Martinez Promotions, and I believe it's going to be streaming on there, but we might be doing something even bigger, but just keep up to date on that, on his webpage.
Worst case scenario, tell somebody put their phone by the ring and just turn it on Facebook Live so we can watch it. So we can get.
I got you.
Too. All right. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's another edition of the Best Women's Boxing Show, period. It's just Giandra LaBeouf this time. No Cynthia Conti. But make sure you keep tuning in. And thank you, Jolene.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome.